how would you say your relationship with money has changed through the entrepreneurial process?
Wow, such an interesting question. I think in the beginning I was a bit of a fraud. I had like Stanford college application essay energy, where I'm like, I just like want to help people and that. But like, dude, in the back of my head, I'm like, bro, I want to be on Forbes, bro. I can be on the cover, bro. I want to be famous, bro. Like, it was bullshit. I just really wanted to be rich. Like, my dad kind of indoctrinated me when I was like 5 about Bill Gates. So since I was a kid, I was like, I want to be Bill Gates. I want to be Bill Gates. I actually got to meet him. It's a funny story of how I did it. I like got to carry one of the flags for a graduation, and I left the flag and went to meet him because he was on the podium. So yeah, I'd say in the beginning I was very money motivated, but I hid it. I was just like, no one can know this because they're gonna think I'm gross or this. And so yeah, I was very, very motivated to get rich or successful. And then I don't know. I think there's just like an itch in me that's always been curious. So I couldn't help myself by always like noticing, like, wait a minute, that person who just came to speak like is a billionaire, and they just like didn't look happy, and they didn't have good answers to questions, and they just looked like not comfortable in their own skin. Like, the fuck's going on, right? So I'd like read psychology, or I'd take a psychology class, and I would learn about certain things, and so in a kind of like nerdy, intellectual, kind of brooding way, I started to be like, whoa, what if money is not that important? And so yeah, I would just read like fucking Noam Chomsky and Sartre, and I'd read Hayek. I just like read widely across the political spectrum. I read a lot of philosophical and religious and spiritual stuff, and it just started to feel like maybe it wasn't that big of a deal, but that was cognitive. Emotionally, I actually was still driven to succeed and make a lot of money, because at some deep emotional level, my being was built on this idea: if I'm not Bill Gates, like, I'll never make my dad proud. If I'm not super successful, my mom won't love me. Like, there was like a deep need to be successful, to be safe, or finally I can go, okay, right? Like, it was like I wasn't allowed to be myself until I got into a good college and finally was there. Then I went, okay, right? Like, there was this need for a checkpoint where I could finally be safe. And it felt like money was that. And so I struggled with it, because cognitively I was like, yeah, this stuff is not going to make me happy. It doesn't really matter. I'm meeting all these rich people who, like, I don't know, they just like have a worse life than like a bunch of, my family or so on. But emotionally I still felt like I needed it. I was so driven. But I'd hide it. I was ashamed of it. And then, yeah, I think it was just in doing this company, being so isolated from like the rest of society and people. Like, spent 2 years backpacking by myself. Like, I had very few friends. Lived in my parents' basement for a while in the early years of working on this. Like, didn't date somebody for a long time. Like, didn't have any friends. Like, literally, it was just total like isolated loner. Yeah, you start like rather than that like ambition or greed or proving self, you just don't want to be lonely, right? Like, you start to have other drives that you're like, I would choose a friend over, this company being successful any day. Like, I'm just so lonely. Like, that was the stuff that was starting to like show up for me. And starting the company and getting off the ground was so difficult. There was just so much self-work involved. So I just remember this turning point. It was like December 2020. It might have been December 20th, something like that, where I just called my parents and I was just crying, because I was like, this thing's going to fail. I'm like, so sorry. I wasted the money you put to like get me my Stanford degree. And so, yeah, I don't remember if it was for 10 minutes or 40 minutes or something in between, but I just was like, I don't know where it came from. It was like channeling from a deeper part of me, but it was like, I was like, would you still love me if I was a janitor? My mom would be like, yes. I'd be like, would you still love me if I worked at Chick-fil-A? And she'd be like, yes. And I just did that. I was like, would you love me if I was a high school teacher? Would you love me if I was a Zamboni driver? Would you love me if I was a tennis coach? Would you love me if I like graded SATs? And just, I just kept going and going. And I just like, such like, it just felt like a really scared, innocent part of me that just wanted to know that like I wouldn't be abandoned and would be loved. Just so like, it was almost like it was just like, let me cover my bases, you know?
Yeah. Just in case.
Just in case. And I just remember at the end of that call, like there's just a part of me that was just like released. And I think there was like experiences like that started to, like my cognition had changed in university, but then what happened in my body started to change with these experiences. I remember at the end of 2021, after I came to Austin, this was actually with an Austin investor. So yeah, we got that Bitcoin, you know,
Yes.
and so on. This was right before we got that small angel check. That was it was $150,000 that, you know, that actually allowed us to stay afloat for a bit more. Yeah, this Austin investor and I were talking, and we were negotiating how much money he was going to give us and how much of the company he would take away. And it sounds really immature, but it is the truth. I sat there and I just like cried because I was like, dude, if I give away this amount of the company, like, I can't be Bill Gates. Like I can do the math. Like, you know, even if the company's really, it's like, I can't be Bill Gates. And I love to say it was like, oh, I'm like losing from like an ambition point of view. But dude, it was just like that innocent fucking 7-year-old in me is like, fuck, what if my dad's not gonna be fucking proud of me? That wasn't a conscious thought, but like at a heart level. And I just remember this like desperation of like, fuck. Like what if I do everything and I'm still not fucking good enough, right? Like that was really emotional. And I just remember I was like in Olympia, Washington. I don't even know why. I was in somebody's backyard. It was like night and it was cold and I wasn't wearing shoes because I want to ground even though my feet are fucking cold. And yeah, I just called my dad and I said, Dad, is it okay if I like let the company fail because like I don't take this guy's money, because if I take his money then I can't be Bill Gates? And then I couldn't say like, you know, the rest, because it wasn't conscious, but like I was just, he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, yeah, take his money. And it was so, he's just like, come on, dude, like you work so hard, like of course, don't let this die, like there's so much ahead of you. And I just remember being so confused. Like not here, but like here, I just remember being so confused. Because I was like, but wait, I've been living like my entire life to like make you proud, dude. Like to hit this goal. Because you said you wanted me to do this. Like, I'm a good boy. I'm going to follow orders. Right? I want to make you proud. And I just remember being so confused. I just remember being so fucking confused. And so I think a big part of my relationship to money was realizing, what if I made that story up? Like, what if me as a kid innocently, like, took it so literally? Like, they didn't actually give a fuck if I was Bill Gates or if I was super rich or that. But that's what I thought I needed to be safe. And so I think in that cycle, there was like a big, big release. And just coming to terms with it, I was like, well, this thing's going to fail. Like, I've lost my youth. Like, you look up when Nike was started, like, Phil Knight did it in his 20s. You look at when, like, Bill Gates started it, he did it in his 20s. I mean, someone, you know, like, I'm like, well, I'm not going to be 20 at the end of this. Like, I'm done, okay? And so I just had to come to terms with, I'm not going to be everything I thought I would be. And then I just think the final thing was just like, there was no light at the end of the tunnel. I was just so, this thing was just so clearly going to fail. And I was just so depressed over and over again. I finally ended up working with a psychiatrist at a certain point because I got so desperate. Even this past fall, I was on 3 psychiatric meds. It was like not good. I was in a really bad place. So it's just kind of insane that I am where we are now. So I had to write down in the inventory how many times I was depressed. And I just cried because it was 16 fucking times in 12 years. And she's like, I can't believe you never sought out a psychiatrist. I was like, I don't believe in that stuff, you know? It's my fault. Like, I got to will my way through it. She's like, you're fucking stupid. And just to face the fact that I had to get depressed 16 times before I finally sought help, and that's how difficult it's been. At a certain point, when you go through it that much, you don't even think about money or success or girls or whatever. You're just like, I just want to be able to go to sleep. and not like fucking sit there and, you know, not be able to go to sleep. Like I just want to be able to watch a YouTube video and enjoy it rather than just like being all like tense. Like I just want to not be depressed. And so yeah, I just I think I have a reasonable relationship with money now, which is like I'm creative. I can use money. Like I know how to use money. Like I love brands, I love research, I love learning about things. Like I can buy, you know, clothing out of natural fibers or higher quality stuff that I don't need to keep throwing it away that'll last a long time. Like I feel like the more knowledgeable one is, the more creative one is, like you can find uses for money. So like I feel like I'm more open to myself now. Like I do like money and I do find it useful, but I don't need it and I'm not motivated by it. And yeah, I feel like way more at peace because my goal is just to be like mentally sound. That's just if I'm that and I have somebody I love and I'm surrounded by people I love and I get to work on fun stuff, it's fine.
Yeah.
What else could you ask for?
Huh?
I said, what else could you ask for? That's like the recipe for a good life.
Yeah. And like, you know, people have said this. You read the fucking books. You read, like, people say this on stage. I was like, what a jackass. Like, I never fucking believed it. I was like, shut the fuck up. Yeah. You're just lying. But yeah, I love to say, like, I came to it through, like, a positive orientation. But it was beaten out of me. It was just fucking, you're just like, I just don't give a shit anymore, man.